Hello, welcome to Dad's Next Project.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Dad's Next Project, a podcast. Today, I have with me a father of two, student, employee, gamer, nerd, I don't know, whatever else he wants to describe himself as today. But the point is, he's a dad. We're going to talk about dad stuff. And how you doing today, Charles?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good day so far.
So do you go by Charles or?
I do. So I actually had uncles and relations with all the different variations pretty much. So I always went by Charles and worked for me.
No, your generation skips Chuck.
Yeah, I might get there someday, but right now I got to wait for a different Chuck to pass on the name first.
All right, I got you. So Charles, tell me a little bit about just yourself. Obviously with the introduction. So you're a dad of two, you're in school, like what's all that like?
Yeah. It's a lot, honestly. It's been fun and I wouldn't trade it for the world, honestly. I don't think any dad would, but a typical day for me is, starting at 6:30, 6, I get up, 6:30, I leave the house. I have an hour commute to school. I study and I'm working on campus and things like that. So kind of busy all day and then get home around 5:30 or 6, try and spend as much time with my kids as I can before they go to sleep. And right now I'm kind of wrapping up the semester. I have a month left and then my hope is to just be able to spend some time outside, going on walks, going to the park. I'm born and raised in Minnesota, so getting outside, enjoying spring is going to be great as soon as we have spring.
Yeah, it's taking a little longer for you guys to get spring.
Just this last weekend we had a huge snowstorm, and it was a ton of fun to kind of hold the kids up to the window and be like, "Look at the snow outside!" But also, then I had to shovel the driveway and
do all the fun side.
Yeah,
the snow. Yeah, that's one thing about being in Arizona is I don't have to shovel the heat.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Not as much snow down there.
Mm-hmm. Not where I'm at. It's happened occasionally. I've been here 26 years, and I think we've gotten 2 or 3 light dustings of snow.
I know some people in Arizona, and if you get far enough north or whatever, then there's some occasionally, but still not a whole lot to shovel.
Oh yeah, they're struggling with spring up there too this year. Like
yeah, that's what I hear.
So your kids are how old?
So I have a 3-year-old who is a ball of energy, and then a 6-month-old who just as of this week has learned to roll himself up to a seated position and crawl forwards rather than just backwards. So,
nice.
Nice. It's been a good moment for milestones.
Yeah. So the 3-year-old in the snowstorm, that probably was was a really cool thing.
Oh yeah, he loves watching snow come down, but he doesn't ever want to stand in it. So We'll be like looking at the snow, and it's so cool, and we'll drive in the snow, and then he'll have to get out and like run inside, and he's like, "Nope, we're done.
That's where I will enjoy it from the warm inside or whatever, but as soon as I gotta be in it, no, thank you.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I don't know what it is, but we're hoping to get him to enjoy it next year once he's tall enough that the snow isn't, up to his neck.
Right. So with your 2 kids and then being a student and then you work as well.
Yeah.
Right?
So I have an assistantship. I'm in a master's program, and so I have an assistantship on campus that covers tuition. I'm extremely lucky and to have gotten that opportunity. So if I'm 4 days a week, I'm up on campus either for work or school, and they're both in the same building. Yeah.
So you were able to take your learning and getting it paid for and kind of make it into one thing, sort of.
Yeah. So I got really lucky with the opportunities because I was looking for local employment and things. And one of my professors emailed out and said, "Hey, we're looking for somebody who can do this job. Is anybody down?" And I said, "Sign me up."
Yes.
Yeah.
Here, please.
yeah, it adds a little bit of commute time because like I said, I've got like an hour each way to commute, but it's made education possible for me, which it wouldn't necessarily have been otherwise. So we were really blessed with all the different opportunities that came together. I'm also currently living with my parents, which is every 30-year-old's dream, you know.
Absolutely.
So before living here, I lived with my in-laws for a couple of years as well. And both of those opportunities, while we all know that living with our parents and in-laws can be stressful, they've also given me the opportunity to just be able to pursue my dreams. So
you're sacrificing now to have the better future, right?
Yeah, that's the way I like to look at it.
So with that, like, so your schooling, you've been in for a little while, you're almost done. Like marriage, kids, all of that's kind of happening at the same time, right?
Yeah, I am so lucky to my wife's goal was to be a stay-at-home mom, and it's where she finds a lot of fulfillment. And so I was very, very lucky that our two goals lined up on that, because I can be gone all day and she's taking care of the kids, and I know that no matter what goes crazy, she's got things well in hand. But then when we get home, my first thing is I'm going to try and get her a break as much as I can. The 3-year-old's a mama's boy, so like, and I mean that in the best way possible. He's so excited to see mom at every chance he gets. So when I get home, I kind of got to pry him off of her so she can get some time. And some days it's easier than others. Some days we end up just both being down there. So trying to
some days you can't, when they're attached to the one parent or the other. Some days it's just not, you're not getting them away.
Yeah. And on those days, I'll, go cook dinner or whatever, we try and make sure that neither one of us is doing nothing while the other one's working their butt off.
That's good. You guys have that partnership, and there's no like line of this is what you should be doing, this is what I should be doing. It's like, okay, you're with kids, I'm in the kitchen, you're with kids, whatever that.
Oh yeah. We kind of take some of those traditional, not all, but some of those traditional gender roles, and we kind of throw them out the window. Like, I'll cook dinner if that's what it takes. I'll cook dinner. You keep them quiet, doing the activity that they're enjoying. Like, let's let them thrive, and we'll take care of the rest.
Right, and I feel that's very important. We do the same thing in my house, right? Like, right now, after our second, my wife's a stay-at-home mom, and it's sort of driving her nuts because she doesn't necessarily feel like she's contributing like she has traditionally, right? Like, she wants to be out there and doing whatever. And in my eyes, she's contributing way more now than she ever could have before. Being here for our kids and our youngest and the development. And then, like we cut my daughter's daycare down a couple of days, so she's still getting the interaction with the kids, but she's in the home here. So like and I'm all about it, right? Like,
yeah, that's awesome.
And when I get home, if she's had a rough day and hasn't gotten to doing this, that, or the other thing, I'll jump on it. Or the weekends we both kind of tackle whatever's left, and I feel like that's how we have to function.
Oh yeah,
right. In modern times, it's not you're doing this and I'm doing that. It's we have a common goal.
Oh yeah, I once heard somebody say, the idea of 50-50 parenting and 50-50 relationships doesn't work. Really kind of keeping the idea of like an 80-80 or 100-100 if possible.
Right.
We try and go with an 80-80 split, so we're both contributing as much as we can while still having a little bit left over so that we've got some energy at the end of the night. Because then when the boys go down, I'll go play my video games. She loves to crochet and watch her shows, and we play some games together. Like, it's about finding that recharging space once they're down so that we can be prepared to do it all again the next day.
So with everything you've got going on, not just your kids, with the schooling too, and the workload that you've got there, how important is that you time? Like, making time, whether it's a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Oh, that time is essential. Absolutely. I'm an introvert, so the idea of getting out and being social is, it's a great thing. And I want to socialize my kids, and I want to be an active part of my community and things like that. But the kids go down and I'm like, oh, cool. I can't go anywhere because I got to be in the house to, if something goes wrong, I'm listening to the monitor. But I can just relax and I can melt into the couch and, I can play Xbox or I'll watch whatever I'm watching on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. And there's no expectations. And that's kind of been the way we run our marriage together as well, is like, once the boys are down, if there's anything we've got to do, we try and get it done pretty quick, like elements of cleaning the house or, taking out the trash. We'll get that all done pretty quick. And then there's just no requirements on either of us. And if we want to hang out, we can, and we do a lot. We listen to podcasts together. We're both gamers. So we've got some Dungeons and Dragons podcasts we listen to. We've got some shows that we've watched together. Like I said, we've got a video game we both play together. But I'd say 6 out of 10. That doesn't make sense in a week. So maybe 4 out of 7 days a week, we'll just kind of do our own thing, and she'll be in the room and I'll be in the living room, or we'll take turns. I'll be in the room, she'll be in the living room. We'll just kind of, in mental health, we call it parallel play. The idea of just, we're both doing stuff and we're doing our own thing and the other person's around. So we know that we matter to the other person, but I'm not saying, I don't like to say when the boys go down, now I need all of your time, because that's not fair to her. She spends all of her time all day, every day, wrangling 2 little boys. I don't need to be the third child. She would be mad at me if she heard me say, even comparing myself to a child. The idea of women parenting their spouses drives her up a tree. So.
Yeah, but I mean, despite our best efforts, we kind of end up in that realm sometimes, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
and I think it's important too. Like, there'll be nights where she gets to go and have her fun, and be more like a kid, and some nights I get to do all of the work because she's just done, and other nights she gets to take care of all the stuff because I'm just dead. And yeah, it's all about that balance, that making sure that we're just paying attention to the other one's needs, and more importantly to our own, so we can communicate them. If I don't know what I need, I can't tell her what I need.
Yeah, communication is ridiculously key, and also ridiculously overlooked, or misguided, misinterpreted, or just bad at it in general.
Oh yeah, we'll do our best, and I make it sound like we have this great system that works all the time. It doesn't every time. We'll get some nights we'll just both be grumpy. We'll be tired. We'll be frustrated. But other nights it works really well. It's all a matter of just recognizing that we signed up for better or for worse, and we're gonna get both.
Right, in life in general, there's no one is perfect.
No.
Right. We have days that are better than others, but in the grand scheme of things, not too long ago, I posted a reel, and it was just me saying, like, not every day is a win, but you will have wins every day.
I like that.
Right. Even if it's a little one.
Yeah, I like to. So I'm in there's a Bluey page on Facebook that I'm one of the admins in, and we have a ton of fun there, kind of like being really supportive of dads. And sorry, I'm gonna plug that group real quick.
No, do it. Plug it.
There, it's awesome. The Bluey, or the Bandit's Bluey fan page for dads. It's one of the few wholesome places left on the internet. We talk all the time. Both as just everybody in the group, but also as the admins, especially, like, some days you live your wins 7 minutes at a time. We often compare ourselves like to a cartoon dog, and it's hard to beat the cartoon dog sometimes because things go perfect and he's got all this boundless energy, and I do not have that. So I remind myself that, like, if I can go play horsey with my 3-year-old for 7 minutes, then that's a win. And if I can do it 7 minutes 2 or 3 times in a day, oh man, that's just like the best day ever.
Right. I don't have an e-sport. I've got to be on a fabulous board to do horsey.
I don't either, but usually it's 1 or 2 minutes is all I can handle before I'm like, all right, I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah, well, fortunately for you at 3, the attention span is only about that. If they're like, horsey, okay, on to the next thing.
I wish I could say that was true with our kid. He has the memory of an elephant, and he will remember things for weeks or months. He'll like recently we were like, Grandma said she was gonna take him sledding, and he's been thinking about it for the last 2 weeks. How on Friday, Grandma's gonna take me sledding. So this morning, she had to go and run an errand in the morning. So he woke up and he was like, "Where's Grandma? We're going sledding." It's like, man, she'll be back soon. I promise.
Oh man,
his attention span. He has more energy than I can imagine, and his attention span is longer than my own sometimes. But
that's gotta be rough.
But we make do. We last the 7 minutes or however long we can, and then we move on. And he's pretty darn happy with any effort we make. And sometimes it's pinballing between the two parents. Like, all right, I'll take the 6-month-old and we'll just cuddle for a second if you can just go.
Yeah.
And other days it's like, I can see you need a break. Let me just go. We're going to go outside and go on a run around the neighborhood or something.
Something. Give mom a break.
Yeah, we're so excited for this note out so he can just sprint around the yard. We got plenty of space for him to run, so we're very, very excited to just let him out and just be able to like watch him across the yard.
Nice. Yeah. So with the 6-month-old and the 3-year-old, how are you working through like? Because I'm having this problem right now, right? So my daughters are 4.5 and 6 months, and like giving attention to the 6-month-old, and balancing out, like not doing it, so like trying to figure that out, because there's times I feel like I'm neglecting the other one, even though I'm not doing it intentionally. Like the baby needs a diaper change or fed or all the things it can't do for itself, and the other one's just calling me around like, Dad, what the hell?
Yeah. Oh man, that's been so hard. We've been really careful to try and make sure that we're not blaming our 6-month-old for anything. So we'll be like, rather than saying, oh, the baby needs this, we'll say, oh, I need to go do this for the baby, maybe. But like usually we just say, I need to go do this. I need to go make a bottle. And he can imply that it's for the baby, but then I don't want to build any animosity. That we're lucky that they get along really well. They share a room already, and have slightly separate bedtimes. So we get to do things like 6-month-old will go down at 7 o'clock, and then the 3-year-old goes down at 8 o'clock at night, and we'll be like, okay, we got to sneak because the baby's asleep, and we'll tiptoe, very Scooby-Doo style into the room and pop him in bed and say goodnight there. But it's been hard, and a lot of it is just reminding him that I'm going to be gone doing this other thing for a couple minutes while you're having fun and playing. But then I'm going to be right back, and we will do whatever you need. It'll be things like, I have to go feed the baby, but when I come back, let's see what you were working on. You're building this thing with the blocks. Let's talk about that. I want to say it works perfectly every time, but it doesn't. But we do the best we can. That's all we got.
Okay. Yeah. Good. I learned a little bit of a trick there, because for me it's like, oh no, I have to do this for like the baby needs me. Like, I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So usually just the play on words. The message is the same, but the words are different. So hopefully there's no animosity or anything gained because, oh, you're neglecting me, so you can do this.
Yeah, I sure hope it's working. It seems to, but we might have just gotten really lucky with 2 little boys that love each other. So either way, no complaints from me. Yeah,
two boys. I can only. That's only something I can imagine at this point.
Yeah, it's a handful. I think it's a handful no matter what kids you've got.
No,
Everybody's just different.
two kids, especially that close together. I mean,
Yeah.
my oldest is just a smidge older than yours is, but I mean, the gap there is still pretty close as far as their functionality.
Yeah. Well, and if the gap is there, I think if they're close enough, then it's like real easy because they're not too far behind each other, or they're young enough that when they're at different stages, they don't notice. But once you break that 2-year gap and get into the 2.5, 3-year gap, then you start to have huge differences in functionality. And the older kid is like, okay, but like we need to do the things. You're like, well, we got to wait for the little one, but we'll get there. Like we'll get there. Don't worry about it. But we got to wait.
Yeah.
That whole idea of operating at the lowest common denominator for both kids is really hard for the older ones sometimes to understand.
Yeah. For no lack of trying, I tried to be like, okay, let's just baby.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to do diapers. Once we're done doing diapers, I don't want to do it again. Once we're done,
Okay.
right? And of course, not too long after, this was potty trained, relatively self-sufficient, and only needed help with certain things, and just more of reminders like, hey, you need to eat food and those kinds of things, and keep her going and help getting her ready. All of a sudden, it's like, damn, diapers again.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I kind of let my wife lead the timeline on when we have kids because I'm like, not my body. I don't want to make the choice on that one. But also,
like I said, I tried.
Yeah.
My kids are 4 years apart, so
yeah. No, I think the best laid plans of mice and men, but also there's just an element of whenever you as a couple can handle it again, because that was the hard part, getting ourselves to the point where we're like, do we really want to sign up for all of this all over again?
That's another thing that's so amazing with your second is you're going through all these things, schooling and all of that, and you know what that's like with the one. You're like, let's do this again.
Yeah, well, we had our first in between school. So I finished my bachelor's degree. My wife was wrapping up her last semester when we found out we were expecting our first, and so we kind of had a little bit of time where I was working, not schooling, and we had a little discretionary income, and we were living with family, so we had a lot of support. And so we were like, okay, well, this is we can maybe think about another kid. And as soon as we thought about another kid, we were going to be having another kid pretty quick, and then everything started compounding from there. Then I got into grad school. Then we started that whole process. Then we moved across the country. Then we decided to live in my parents' basement. Then we just one thing after another. And it's been a heck of a roller coaster. And I think I've said this a dozen times. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but also it's a lot and it's overwhelming at times. So it comes back to that whole idea of self-care, like, take care of yourself because you can't take care of your kid if you're not in good shape.
No, absolutely. And that's part of what I'm doing here is like the requirement for me to have this conversation is be a dad, right? Like be actively involved with your kids or trying to or whatever, and be willing to share experiences, and that's why we're here. And someone will resonate with what you're saying, someone will resonate with one of the other guests. Maybe someone will be like, "Oh, this is fire! I love every episode." That's fingers crossed. But
no, I love this.
So then let's go back to the Bandit Bluey group for dads.
Heck yeah, I'm always happy to go
there. Yeah, right. Me too. Since we're talking about self-care and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Being an admin, you probably see a lot more of the traffic on the group than I do. I mean, I'm just a member, so it gets kind of spotty. I see a lot all at once, and then I don't see anything for a while, and then I see a lot again.
I'll be honest. For me, it's somewhat similar in some ways. We have a really wonderful admin team. There are 18 admins, and I don't remember. I want to say 30-something mods, which sounds like a really huge number of people until you remember there are 40,000 people, more than 40,000 people in the group as of before we started this episode. It's a huge number, and there's always going to be some struggle that we have. Like there's always some people who kind of who don't get along with others very well. But we've seen a lot more support than anything else. The concept of the group is emotional vulnerability. The idea of let's bring everybody together and let's have a place where dads can be genuinely dads. You're not going to see a supportive comment that doesn't have a little dad joke snuck in there somewhere, or a comment about, or a comment about, the dad sneakers or cargo shorts or things like that. They're all over the place.
Man,
but also,
when New Balance released those sneakers, I swear my Facebook feed was nothing but got the shoes.
Oh yeah. Well, and we didn't let through half of the posts on them, and I feel bad if anybody is watching this and your post about the New Balance Bandit looking shoes didn't get through. There were too many. But yeah, it's those fun little things that kind of bring us together and let us all just, in the same way that sports teams get really excited on game day, or video game people get really excited at new game release or things like that. We have so much fun when like a new season comes out in the US or Australia. And granted, when the Australian seasons come out,
I don't get excited when the Australia seasons come out. That doesn't do anything for me.
I start to see the memes, so I get them spoiled early. But I'm always like, whenever the new one comes out in Australia, I'm like, okay, how long till it's here?
3 to 6 years.
Pretty close.
Too long.
Yeah.
Too long.
But
it's
been great
with the sports analogy, right? So that group is, I would equate it sports wise to like a Formula One group or a football, not football, but like a European, soccer like following, because it's obviously heavy Australia. There's people from the UK, New Zealand, the United States, and then I think I saw a map that there were some little pockets here and there, and it's a like dads for all walks of life, all over the world, and we all are talking about either the same struggles, the same hurdles. I don't think I've seen a post that's like, hey guys, I'm hitting this issue, that doesn't almost immediately have 30 or 40 responses, if not more, by the time I've seen it. And that it is, and it generally they're all constructive.
It's been really wonderful. I will say, I have been admin and been involved in various other like large social settings and community groups. And this is the one where something will pop up and all posts have to be approved. So something will pop up in the to be approved post, and it'll be really emotionally vulnerable. And in other groups, my brain would be like, oh, can we trust our community to handle this well? And in a lot of communities, we can't. But in this one, our first thought is, I wonder who's going to comment first. I wonder what things are going to be brought to the table. I wonder, what direction this is going to go, how we can help. And it's been amazing, absolutely spectacular to see just the outpouring of support. We have one post that is all about mental health, and I'm going to try and keep the anonymity here because it's a vulnerable space. But there's a post where it's basically like, hey, do you need something right now? Are you just in need and need somebody to reach out and talk to get through depression, anxiety, or just anything else, the stress of being a dad? And I've seen people comment on there, and then within minutes, it's an old post, but within minutes, they'll get somebody who says, hey, I'm going to send you a message. And it just blows my mind. There's a couple people here and there who, we'll have to do, there'll be some really big topics that'll come up and tempers will flare, but very rarely. And they're so, even when people get grumpy, it's always like, hey, but remember why we're here? And pretty much everybody comes back to that supportive space concept. So it's one of the last wholesome places on the internet. I recommend it to any and all dads.
So I'm gonna pitch this to you. I've already got the seed kind of planted with a couple of the others, but I would love to have a handful of you guys and just do a roundtable. Via Dad's Next Project, we can either host a live or we can record it and do whatever or however that looks. But I would love to have a few of you and just do a roundtable on the group, how it's grown, you know, what it kind of started out as and what it's turned into. So we need some OGs, you know, some of the original guys from the beginning. And
I'll say I'm not one of the OGs. I've only been there. Well, I want to say it's getting close to a year now. I don't remember the exact time. I've not been there as long as some, but I do know that there's a fair number of people who would just love that idea. You could probably get a fair number of people going for it, and I'll recommend it in the admin chat circles.
Yeah, I know. There's, you know, you reached out, a couple others have reached out with my initial, like, hey, I've got this dad podcast. Would love to have a couple of you guys on it. But I think just with the size of that group, it would be awesome to just, you know, just give it its credit. The credit is due, because, you know, it's doing so much for people every day.
Yeah, it still surprises us how big it's getting and how it's managed to stay what it is, despite getting larger. So yeah, I agree. I'll plug it till cows come home. It's an amazing group. It's so awesome. It's so supportive. If you're a dad and you're not a member of it and you like Bluey, go join.
Yeah, if you're a dad and you're not a member and you don't like Bluey, which
you will,
yeah, you will afterwards, because there's no reason not to like Bluey.
Yeah, if you don't like Bluey, you haven't watched it. So
I think I didn't like Bluey for all of like 10 seconds the first time I saw like a clip of it on the TV, and I'm like, oh, what is this? Another cartoon dog? They're just, you know, can't come up with something new. And then I got into an episode, and that was it. Like, I watched it without my kids.
Oh yeah, I cried. I'll fully admit I cry during episodes. We recently had March Madness. Sleepy Time.
Yeah, my favorite, probably by far.
I really like Rain.
Yes,
that
Rain is very underrated. I think, you know, like, my daughter isn't interested because there's no talking. Yeah, she just asked me, like, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? I'm like, they're just enjoying the moment, sweetheart. It's just like, just watch.
See, I watched it and I was like, ooh, how can we make this wall better? Like, because they're stopping the rain. And I was like, I'm curious. What do we got? I was immediately like playing with them. So.
Yeah, after the first couple of items, and then I'm like, okay, what is she gonna go get next? Yeah, how is this gonna work?
Oh yeah, well, and the music sticks with you too. Obviously, the theme song, but Bingo's got a couple songs throughout. You know, Poor Little Bug on the Wall. That hits home.
Yeah, so. It does. Amazon got me. I pre-ordered the album.
I haven't yet, but I'm going to.
I got the first one, and, you know, when we're listening to music, my daughter will ask, what does she call? She doesn't know record, but I forgot what she calls it. But it's hilarious, and I really wish I could remember right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so she likes dancing to the music, and it was like the pool. Some of those are just absolutely great. Yeah. And then the inclusion in all the classical music elements that they trickle into the show is awesome too.
I was classically trained since I was like 8 years old with music. I love music. Been in choirs my whole life. My family plays various different instruments. My older brother's an operatic tenor and concert pianist, and so like there's never been a moment in my house where there's not music playing growing up. And so I'm listening to the music, and there's, you know, like Dance Mode is a great episode because it shows like tons of different types of music, but then the underlying theme or the underlying track beneath it all ties everything together. And as a music nerd, there's so much to love there. But it's the little things. It's the kind of show where you watch the heartbreaking episodes and the uplifting episodes, and just everything is so amazing about it. And then you're like, cool, well, that's it. You know, I've turned the TV off. I've watched a lesson. I've grown. And then you go find other people and you talk more about it, and you realize that like, oh, they got something different than I did. And so like, now I got to go find out what everybody thought about different things. So it's been so much fun to just have a place where everybody gets it, and everybody can just be enthusiastic about childish things. I think so often we spend a lot of time as dads expecting that we need to be the adults in the situation. We need to, make sure that everything is taken care of and we're organized and we're structured and, we fix everything. And, and that's great. Like, if that's you, go for it. But also, I think it's nice to kind of let our imaginations run wild and to be kids again for a bit.
It's excellent. I mean, you're going to school you're studying mental health and those aspects, and the disconnect that as you grow and you start losing that imagination, that's part of what hinders us, because we don't have the imagination to see what's in in the future for us and where our growth can be and all those things. So even a cartoon dog, if you can just stimulate that thought process and that imagination, those feelings that you have when you're like, everything is possible.
Yeah, if you can have a conversation with your kid about what you want to be as a dad when you grow up, you'll find a type of magic and wonder that you might have been missing. And I think Bluey happens to be one way that I can find that. I'm sure there's other ways for other people, but it's been fun to just engage with my inner child and be a kid. Because turns out when I'm playing with a 3-year-old, the only way I've got enough energy is by being a kid myself. And then I get done and I'm exhausted, but it was the best, 7-8 minutes of being a kid that I could be. So.
Yeah. Right. Well, I've got one more question for you.
All right.
And we can kind of wrap this up. All right. So, what does Dad's next project mean to you?
I think it means a space where dads can be unashamedly dads, a place where we can, it promotes that same vulnerability I've talked about. It lets us have a space where I can just be who I am, and I don't have to come here and tell you all these fancy things about me. I don't need degrees and certificates, or, I don't need to prove how cool I am. Just being a dad, being cool to my 3-year-old is more important than being cool to anybody else. And I think for most of us dads, we see the other dads who are cool to their 3-year-olds or however old, and those are the cool dads for us. So I love that you're doing this project and letting dads come on and just be normal guys who are excited about something, and whatever it is they're excited about, giving a platform and space to just be that. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Charles. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you.
And, go watch some Bluey.
Yeah, you too.
And for everybody watching, you go watch some Bluey too, because if you think TV is trash nowadays, which it mostly is, this will be the only thing you watch.
Oh, yeah. And it's the only thing you need to watch.
It literally is.
Hello, welcome to Dad's Next Project.